Hello, folks. I'm Dave. That's Scott. We are Old Ass Movie Reviews.
Old-ass movies.
Yes, sir. And today we are reviewing It's a Wonderful Life, 1946, starring Donna Reed and Jimmy Stewart. This first little section is going to be maybe 5 minutes, give or take. We're just going to say our quick knee-jerk reaction, gut feeling for the movie, and then move on. One of my absolute favorite Christmas movies is It's a Wonderful Life. There have been many imitations. Nobody's even come close. Donna Reed is, of course, Donna Reed beautiful, and she's the perfect wife, the perfect girlfriend, and James Stewart plays the perfect guy.
Yeah.
When he finally breaks. Love this movie. Absolute best Christmas movie ever.
Hey, I don't disagree at all. This is definitely in my top 5, top 10
Nice.
Christmas movies. I wish it had a warning at the beginning. Please get a box of tissue.
Yes.
This movie
Yes.
will devastate you in a good way.
Yeah.
It's a great story. It's just a great Christmas movie.
Mhm.
I say watch it. So, folks, you want to hear a little bit more about it? You've seen this movie countless times, like many have.
Yeah.
We're about to go a little deeper. So, into It's a Wonderful Life. As you said, Donna Reed, Jimmy
Donna Reed.
Stewart. So,
The deep dive goes like this.
it's not super deep, but
No, we're just going to talk about the movie.
we're just
If
going
you're
to
not
talk about the
familiar-
movie.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with the way Scott and I do movies, we watch a movie, we semi-review a movie, but it's mostly us just talking about the movie.
Yeah.
We will take scenes in and out of order because
Yeah.
we've watched them. So we hope that you watch them before you've seen this. Real quick, James Stewart plays George Bailey. Donna Reed plays Mary Hatch, who becomes his wife. Lionel Barrymore, what a bastard in this movie, plays
so
Mr.
good.
Potter. One of the
So good.
most famous families of Hollywood was the Barrymores. Thomas Mitchell plays Uncle Billy. Henry Travers plays Clarence, the angel that comes down to get his wings. Beulah Bondi plays Mrs. Bailey. That's his mom. And she was a big time actress at that point. By that point, I think she had already done like a lot of silent movies and she'd been in sounds for a while. And this is 1946, so she'd been around for a long time. Then you have Frank Phelan, who was Ernie. And I won't go, well, you know what? Here's one that I will name. Gloria Graham was Violet. If you go to IBDM and look at the picture that they have for her in this cast, wowzer. She was gorgeous.
Yeah.
Then Ward Bond played Bert. He just looks like a cowboy, like he should be riding a horse. And that's all I'll go through right now. Everybody else is all the character actors that show up a little bit here and there. But if you don't know anything about this movie, it's about a guy who has been pushed to the edge. He's going to commit suicide. He's going to jump off the bridge. Middle of a blizzard, wintertime. His whole life has just come crashing down. And everybody's praying for George Bailey. I'm welling up.
How the movie starts.
That's how, yeah. And this is the very beginning of the movie. And you hear the camera kind of goes around town to outside of houses, and you hear little kids praying for George Bailey, friends praying for George Bailey. Just everybody's like, George is having a bad time. God, could you help George? Then they shoot out to space, and you're looking at these planets coming by. And then you see these stars and a little kind of a galaxy, whatever. And they start talking to each other. Hey, get over here. I got to talk to you. No, what's going on? Well, everybody's praying. We need somebody to go
They
visit
send
this
a
guy.
guardian angel to save George.
We need to sit. But the funny thing is, evidently, to be a guardian angel, a proper guardian angel, you have to get your wings, but you have to do something to earn your wings.
Yeah.
And Clarence hasn't. What did they say? He's not really bright. He's not really too bright. And then God says to Peter, yeah, but he's as loyal as a dog or as a puppy or something like that. Or he's got the faith of a puppy. And so they call Clarence. Clarence, you can tell right away what kind of angel Clarence is just by the questions he's asking. So, long story short, Clarence comes down and shows George how his life was.
Yeah.
This is how
Let
your
me
life was
let
from
me jump in
childhood.
there.
All right.
One of the first things I noticed about this movie is by the time I got to the end is I just watched a different inverted take of A Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
Dickens wrote Scrooge as this evil piece of shit with a redemption arc, and
Mhm.
we see Scrooge, and we can cheer for the bad guy finally
Yeah.
getting a heart and getting better, but you
Yeah.
still have all those people that he devastated along the way.
Yep.
George Bailey, great guy. He had no idea that every person he touched, he changed their life for the
Yeah.
better. He was
Yeah.
so good. And he had no idea. He felt worthless. He had no idea how rich he actually was.
Yeah. And
And
that, oh,
that's so different from A Christmas Carol. It's just like, wow. And it just made me really love this take. It's like, wow, look at that.
and you're right. Everyone he touched, he helped.
Yeah.
And I
Reluctantly.
remember,
He didn't think he was helping. He didn't have any clue what he was doing.
yeah,
In
he
fact,
just,
he
just did
talked
it.
down about it because he thought his dad was stupid for wasting his time doing that until he realized.
Well, that's the thing. Like he did it out of a sense of duty to
Hmm.
his family,
Yeah.
duty to the people around him, because he knew that if he left, that he was it. He was the only thing standing between him and Potter.
Yeah.
But what's great is Clarence shows George his life up until the point where he's getting ready to jump. And George is like, doesn't believe me. He's like, yeah, you're an angel, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I would have been, and George says something like, I would have been better off. Everyone would have been better off had I never been born. And Clarence just looks at him and goes, okay. And he looks up and he says, do you think we can do this? I do too. He's just looking at him like, who is this weird little old man that's following me around? He's like, well, you've never
Surprise.
been born. He's like, what? And George is kind of drunk at this point. He's been, because he's had
Yeah.
such a bad 24 hours.
He
Trust me.
has. He
I've been in
has.
these kind of bad situations where you're just like, my life is over. I'm going to go on
Potter's
a
a
drinking
son of a
binge.
bitch, man. Potter is going to be sending George to jail. He's
Oh,
taking everything from him. Took the knife. He could have saved George. He could
yeah.
have let
Oh, yeah.
George, but he decided to stick the knife in and just let George
He's,
rot.
he stole that money, that son of a.
Oh,
Anyway,
yeah.
real
If it's
quick,
like,
real quick. He still thinks the guy is nuts. He doesn't realize he's actually an angel. But he goes to put on his clothes, or the guy starts talking to him, and his ear, from childhood, he's been deaf in one ear. Well, he's not deaf anymore because he was never born.
Yep.
And the angel tells him that. He's like, you've never been born.
He still
You
don't
never
believe
heard. He's
it.
like, whatever, He goes to the bar. He's going to go get another drink at the bar. Well, it's a different bar now. It's the same building, different bar name.
Yeah.
He's asking
Yeah.
the bartender.
It's
The
not
bartender's like,
martinis.
who the
Yeah.
hell are you? Trouble starts there. But he finally sees like everybody in his life. And he's like, well, where's my
Nobody knows
brother?
who. Yeah.
He's like, well, your brother died because you weren't there to save him, when he was 9 years old. And he's like, what? He's looking at
Yeah,
his
because
brother.
his brother was honored as a war hero, and he's like, "Well, what
Yeah.
happened to the people he saved?" And it's like, they didn't
Yeah.
make it.
He wasn't there to save those 15,000 men on those two cruisers that he,
Yeah,
and it's like his life just being there started touching so many, and then their lives touched other people, and then like it's the domino effect.
yeah,
And when he finally realizes, oh hell, I need my life back, and he's back on the bridge right where the movie starts. He's standing on the bridge right where the movie starts when it starts to come to the end. When the
yeah.
cop finds him, I think it's Bert comes up and, what are you doing here, George? And I'll hit you again. He's like, what are you talking about, man? Calm down. Because he knows who he is now. He's come
Yeah,
back.
finally realizes it.
But that's the general story. And I love the whole thing is just a great story. It's
It
so
is.
well done. It's so well put together. It was supposed to be shot in color, but I forgot the reason why I read that it didn't get shot in color or it didn't get processed. Like it was supposed to be, it was shot, but it wasn't processed properly. because they ran out of money or they had to rush it out, so
Well,
it
they would have
didn't
had
get.
to choose color or black and white in the film.
I,
So
I don't know
when
how I
they
read it,
started
but
rolling, yeah.
it was something about the processing or something about
Huh.
them doing something that they were going to do and they didn't at the last minute,
Oh,
and that's
wow.
why. But that's why it's so crisp and it looks so nice.
Oh, it's beautiful. The film is at least the cop. I forget. I think I watched it on Amazon, and
Yeah,
the quality's great right there.
oh, it was beautiful. It looked like it was filmed
Let
yesterday.
me mention something about that.
Sure.
There's a lot of great art choices in this movie.
Oh
And
yeah.
I was so hung up as a graphic designer just looking at the title cards that they were all hand drawn at the beginning. And
Oh, dude,
they were the calligraphy, everything is
they
like,
were
holy
beautiful.
crap, they spent some time just to make these beautiful placards to shoot the
Yep.
cast because they didn't have computers.
To do the fold over to the next page. It just
Yes.
so nice, so beautiful. The sets were beautiful. They said that set, the Main Street set, I guess it was built on a back lot in Cali. So I don't know how the hell they got it to snow there because they were in, I think they said they were in a heat wave at
Oh
one
my
point.
God, really?
At one point when they were doing something in the winter scenes, I remember reading they were in like a heat
Oh,
wave.
a
So
lot of
everybody's
fake
got their
snow.
winter coats on. It's like, I don't know about you, but
Let,
I've put on sweaters in the heat and I'm like, God, I'm gonna die.
So there was I just a quick little side story that goes kind of along with it. There
Right.
was a show on Fox several years back. I forget what the hell it was called. Oh, the Red Band Society. It was
Uh,
just a hospital drama, and I played an extra on it. So one of the scenes that we shot was outside a courthouse in
uh,
L.A., but it was January in Atlanta,
God.
and we had to dress as if we were summer. It's 20 something degrees. I'm in short sleeves. So is everybody else. And we would be brought outside real quick, shoot the scene, everybody get back by the heaters, and then come back out. And you couldn't shiver. You couldn't
Right.
act cold. It's LA in the summer, and we're in
Yeah.
Atlanta, and it's 30 fucking degrees.
With that
So,
wind going down between the buildings.
oh my
Oh,
God, it was so bad. It was so bad. I'll never forget that. But then, well, I did forget it till you mentioned that. It's like, hey, wait a minute. So,
yeah, I can't even imagine how badly these guys were hot. I'm like, just
oh yeah.
but the sets were beautiful. They built this whole city street so whenever he's running down it or they have to drive down it, they can follow him all the way.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that was good because there's that scene where he's just Merry Christmas Theater, Merry Christmas.
yeah,
He said Christmas
yeah,
to everything. It's such a great scene because what you're seeing is George just finally had realized he's not a loser.
the epiphany.
And he has that epiphany. And
Yeah.
the most touching thing in the world is near the end of the movie where everybody comes and saves George.
You
So,
know, for me, for my money, there's two moments. One's very funny, and one is just it's when Violet comes in.
mm,
Everybody's giving money. Now, Violet has borrowed like the last little bit of money from George that George A had in his hands at
yeah,
the time because he's helping her leave town. She's like, I've lived here. I have a bad reputation. I gotta
yeah,
go. I can't stay here anymore. And he says, don't worry, Violet, I'll help you. And he gives her money. He's known her since they were little kids.
yeah. Since they were kids.
She's been in love with him. She can't have him. But she still loves him.
Yeah,
And I think that's another reason she wants to leave town. But it's never
might
said.
be.
It's never said, but I believe it's implied. But when she comes in, you see the bank examiners who are sent there to arrest basically George Bailey for bank fraud. Meanwhile, there's no reason to because they've got baskets and bushels of money
Yep.
coming in from everybody George has helped. And oh yeah, spoilers.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, when Violet comes in and she takes the money that she has in her hand, she drops that in there, but I think she also takes more out of her purse, which is the money that she saved,
Mhm.
and drops it in the basket.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, holy cow, that girl could have just left.
But
She was on a
George,
bus basically on her way out of town, just like George was when he saw the run on the banks. So that's her moment. I think that's Violet's moment of there's something bigger than me in this life. And the bank examiner also, because he just looks at George, smiles, shrugs, and goes over and starts
yeah.
singing with everybody. And I love that. I love that scene, the very end. Boy, have Kleenex around, folks. Have Kleenex around at all times because you never know what's going to trigger the tears.
Everything, every damn thing about this movie. This is what I love about this movie is that it's a kind of a different take on A Christmas Carol because we're seeing what happens when somebody's good to everybody and the
Yeah,
effect that they have. And it's such a great message. I have a quick story I'll share real quick. I had
sure.
told you the last time I saw this movie was in 1990, I think 1990 or
Really?
91. I can't remember. I was on a plane from Okinawa to the US. It was like a
Oh,
14-hour flight, and this
oh,
movie
geez.
played 5 times back to back. I am very thankful that I forgot the movie.
Really?
I was 20 years old. I'm going to
Right.
tell you right now, this movie will not hit a 20-year-old like it hits a 54-year-old who's had some life behind them. Um, when you have life experiences that you can relate to George Bailey
Yeah.
and the other
Yeah.
characters, it means so much more. And I didn't care for this movie because I'd seen it so many times and I was a stupid kid who knew everything.
Right.
Uh,
Right. We all are. We all
as an
are.
adult, I was like, oh wow,
Poor
this is
George.
beautiful.
Tell them
Yeah.
to fuck off, George. More than once last night, I was like, but that's
Uh,
not the point of the movie. The point of the movie is giving giving of yourself to others.
yeah, yeah,
And
it
once you
is.
realize that, and like you said, how much he's touched everybody.
How much he touched everybody, and he was richer than Potter. I
Yeah,
love when
that,
they show what happened when George wasn't there to stop what Potter would do.
yeah,
And
just
it was
evil.
wild. Casinos, nightclubs, just the whole city changed. It was like, wow.
That scene, I think, was stolen by Back to the Future too. Remember when Biff gets the book and he
Yes,
goes
and
and
you see what
gambles
happens
and
when he took over.
he's in the other timeline and he's like, oh crap, Biff
Very
is
different.
way too rich, way too powerful, just an evil bastard. I bet you that's where they got that idea from. Like,
I bet
oh, we
so.
can go
Yeah,
back, we can
yeah.
go Back to the Future can be, It's a Wonderful Life right here. Because really, without Marty doing everything Marty did, that's kind of a It's a Wonderful Life kind of thing.
So Zemeckis
He
may
has to
have,
fix it.
taken some inspiration from it, and I could see that. Because, well, and this obviously took inspiration from Dickens.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I would say
Because they're like, hey, because I saw this as like, oh my God, this is a Christmas Carol. This is
yeah.
the same
See,
movie. It's just
and
done different.
I've never put that together, but that's
Oh,
brilliant. Yeah. It's a Christmas Carol opposite.
yeah. You're
It's a
seeing
mirror image.
it's if you saw Bob Cratchit at the bottom of the rope or hanging, at the
Right.
end of his rope. That's what this is. This is
Right.
let's focus on Cratchit and all the people he touched instead of Ebenezer and all the people he screwed. So
Right. Right.
it's a neat take. It's like, wow, it's like watching a war movie being here in the US, watching a German war movie on the German eyes. It's
Das Boot.
one of my favorite all-time movies, which will be coming up in 2025. We've got to review Das Boot.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
again, tissues for that one.
I haven't watched it in a very long time, but I have like the original cut in German with the
Oh
subtitle.
yeah, it's a
I'll definitely
beautiful
pull that out. That's a Yeah,
God, Werner
that's a good one.
Herzog masterpiece for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so back to
Sorry,
getting
sorry.
out of
We're
the
talking about
U-boat.
what we're gonna do.
So awesome.
Man,
Awesome.
such a good movie. Let me go through the writers, because I don't think I did this. Frank Capra was not
Oh
only
yeah,
the
there's a name.
director, but he helped write it. He was a producer, and I think he said after this movie he never wanted to do all of those things on one movie. He was either wanted to direct it or he wanted to write
My
it or
God.
write and direct, but he didn't want to produce because there was just so much going on in this
Well,
movie
yeah.
that
That's
it
why
was
it takes
just
a
too
lot
much.
of people.
So
It's hard for you and I just to get together and do a short.
I can't imagine.
Let's herd more people.
And then you have Frank Capra, who was already a known quantity at that time, and everybody wants him. So
Yeah.
it's like, I'm doing this movie, but we need you over here. God only knows what else the guy was doing at the time. But
Hmm.
Francis Goodrich, and is a name we have heard that's come up in our past, and Albert Hackett. helped him write it. I know that Jimmy Stewart said this was his favorite character in one of his favorite movies, but I think he said he liked, what's the one with with the big invisible rabbit that he did? Harvey. But
I've never seen that.
he loved the movie Harvey. You've never seen Harvey?
Mm. Dude, is it black and white? Chances
Black
are I
and white.
haven't
You're
seen
right. You're right. It's black and white.
it.
I will just say this to anybody out there that hasn't seen Harvey. It's a weird movie. It For its time period, it's kind of weird. You're like, what's going on? But it has a surprise ending.
Okay.
That's all I'm gonna say. It's
All
got
right.
a good
Yeah,
surprise
please don't
ending.
spoil it. I
But
have a feeling we'll watch it.
he said that this was his favorite character and he loved doing this movie. He's like, this is one of my favorite movies that I've ever done. But I think he said Harvey was like the movie that he liked the most because I think because it was kind of quirky and odd, almost Twilight. I think of it as Twilight Zone esque, but not quite pushing it that far. It was just
Interesting.
quirky. Um, but yeah, and Donna Reed loved this movie. Everybody that was involved with this movie, when they were asked about it, was like, "No, that's the go-to movie for me." And I don't think it. I think it was okay, but it basically flopped at the box office. But people who
No
loved
pun
it,
intended.
yeah, exactly. But everybody loved it.
It
I mean, I
flopped.
loved it. Uh, I get it, Marty's.
Yeah, so this It's a Wonderful Life is a wonderful movie. It's it's so freaking touching. So,
I just want to say one thing, and I'm glad
yeah.
I was flicking up to this. The scene where Donna Reed takes the rock and whips it at the window and breaks it.
Yeah.
They had a sharpshooter on set. Throw the
Ah,
rock, we're going to shoot it. They didn't need the sharpshooter.
she hit it.
I forgot how many yards away she was, but somewhere in here it says so. She had such a good arm on her. She played baseball. I think
Ah,
they said I don't know if she was a softball or like she tried out for like the women's league at the
yeah.
time. I'm not sure what, but she had a really good arm on her. And anytime they told her to throw it, she'd whip the rock, bash whatever she was told to
That's
hit. And
awesome.
at
That's
one point,
awesome.
I guess it was just like a smaller piece of glass at one point. Like
Yeah.
they were like, she'll never hit this. Get the
And
marksman
she hit it.
every time. And I was like, holy crap, that's
You know
great.
what's cool is, I mean, that's a pretty early scene in the movie for the most
Yeah.
part. And I found it wild that, at least for me, I knew exactly what she wished for.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
wow. Because you
She
never
was in
said
love. Yeah.
but you knew.
She
You knew
was
what
in
she
love
wished
with him
for.
from
Well
the
done.
start, man.
Oh yeah,
From the start.
since they were
Yeah.
tiny. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was meant to be.
That scene where her and Violet are little girls in
Oh
the
yeah. At the soda
drugstore,
shop or yeah, the drugstore. Yeah.
that tells you their what is Betty and Veronica
Pretty
take,
much.
you
Pretty
know?
much.
It's the Betty and Veronica movement. They each want the guy.
Right. But they don't hate each other either.
No,
So,
they don't
but
hate each other
you
at
see the
all.
whole dynamic between those three characters as
Yeah.
kids, and you see it just go all the way up.
Yeah,
So,
all the way to their adults to through both timelines.
oh, one
And
of the things that got me is, and I completely forget about it because it happens early on. He
uh
catches the pharmacist accidentally putting poison in capsules
yeah.
because he's so distraught. He just found out his son had died in the war,
Oh my
and he's
God,
not
that just
thinking
makes me
straight.
cry every fucking time I see this movie.
And it's like, oh
I have
my God.
oh yeah, I start tearing up just thinking about
But
this because it's such a good that little boy is such a good actor.
But when James Stewart finds out, George Bailey finds out that those some kid died because he
Yeah.
wasn't around to stop that,
Yeah.
and
And it
it's
ruined the old man Gower's
absolutely
life
so.
too.
You start to see everybody that he touched, and now I'm really curious about Back to the Future after watching this movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to ask somebody. I don't even know if there's
Yeah,
anybody around left that you could ask.
I don't know.
Those are
I
okay.
I love this movie. It is a Christmas movie. It is a touching movie. It is a well done, well shot, well acted. You cannot go wrong. I say absolutely freaking watch it, man.
I agree with that. And here to quote Clarence, the new angel, and this is what you were just talking about. Strange, isn't it? Each man's life touches so many other lives. When he isn't around, he leaves an awful hole, doesn't he?
Bam,
That'll
bam,
tear you up. This is a
bam.
great movie, folks. I
Great fucking
highly
movie.
recommend this movie. I have been known to watch this movie in the middle of the summer. Just saying,
I could see watching it at
when I
any
need a good
point.
sniffer, that's what I do. This is
Well,
a good movie. It is well acted, super well written, directorially, cinematography in this is phenomenal.
yeah, the whole
Um,
movie's well shot.
there's nothing wrong with this movie.
No,
There is nothing. This is about as close to a perfect movie, in my opinion, that you can get.
I
If there's something wrong with it, I don't know what it is.
yeah, if this is the only second movie I give that distinction to in my rankings, the other one being Casablanca.
Oh,
Um
yeah.
it just hits every freaking beat perfect, both of those
Yep.
movies. And it's just, yeah, you see it. It's like, damn.
And the funny thing about Casablanca is they never had a script ready until that day of
I know
shooting.
that. So,
It's
folks, if you want to
crazy.
hear about that, we have a show early on in it's like episode number 2 or something like that,
Yeah,
and
it's
we're on
pretty early.
200 and something.
Yeah,
So go way back
we
when
did it.
Dave and I talked way too long about everything and
Everything.
nothing.
We still do, but now we catch ourselves and move on.
Yeah. So I say watch it. I think you say the same thing.
I say watch it. It is a great movie. It's Jimmy Stewart and Donna Reed. What more could you want to watch? Nothing. Nothing.
I agree. I agree. So there you have it, folks. Tune in next week. We've got more Christmas coming. This is going to be a long Christmas haul for old ass movies. So there may
Yes,
be a
it
little more
is.
movies than usual.
Because we
So,
love Christmas.
yeah.
And Merry Christmas.
And Merry Christmas. We'll catch you all next week. Later.